How you guys doing? It's been a while since I've done a Cruise Control kind of rant video. I've been driving around a ton lately, so I just got a ton of things in my head. I'd rather have this stuff out in a video because I want to talk about it, and I don't necessarily want to, pollute a DFS video or live stream with this type of stuff because I think I've been doing that quite a lot recently. So I'm just going to be talking about things that I just been wanting to talk about recently. You might find this interesting. You might not. I want to talk about the Reno air races, Mount Everest, the NASCAR crash test, stuff that just came out, the Indy 500 and the tire going over, and mainly the change and the turning point that we're seeing in DFS with the publicly available Stokastic tool that they recently put out and everything like that. But let's go ahead and just talk about Reno because I love aviation. I love any type of motorsport, any type of race in general. I just love aviation in general. I love planes. When I went to NASA, when I first moved here to Houston, I was more intrigued by the 747 that the shuttle is sitting on than the actual shuttle itself. Maybe it's a 747. Don't really know. I'm not an engineer. I just enjoy planes because I actually know how that stuff works. Turbines. Even when I was standing under it looking at landing gear, I think that's way cooler than the space shuttle because I have no idea how rockets work. I can't necessarily really relate to that type of stuff. Anyway, when we look at the Reno air races, for those of you that are unaware, this is the final year that the Reno air races are going to exist because after this year they are not the FFA or whoever is in charge of giving the permits out to airports of who can do this and who not. They are not going to renew this, and this will be the final year for those. A lot of factors going in. The main factor being that residential land and property are slowly encroaching upon the airport and that greater area, so it's a bigger risk to the public and things like that, just in case things go off haywire and everything like that. I have to believe that the final real nail in the coffin was the Wings Over Texas air show crash last year. We'll kind of talk about all those really quick, or once I get through this type of stuff. But anyway, the Reno air races are ending. And for me, as very libertarian in terms of letting people do whatever the hell they want to do with their lives, I'm very disappointed in that decision. I think it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to find another facility here in the U.S. or even in North America. We might have better chances in Canada, but I would not hold my breath. But I think it'll be very difficult to find a facility that is willing to take on the gap in the market that'll be the Reno air races, okay? You have to find a facility that is pretty out in the middle of nowhere, a facility that has the capability to have all of those planes there, to have all the festivities there. It's a ton of things, it's way harder than what people want to. They just think you show up and fly, So I highly doubt that we're going to see another place in North America that we're going to be able to race planes. If it does happen, I will be very happy. I think right now it's pretty much just going to defact to the one place in Asia. I forgot if it's in China or if it's in... I know it's somewhere in Asia. I don't have it right off the top of my head. But there's two places here in the world that you can race planes, and that was Reno, and that's the place in Asia. I just went blank on it. It'll probably de facto return just to Asia as the one place you can view that type of stuff. And I'm not just talking about the jet planes and things like that. I like the fighter aircraft from World War II and a little bit earlier. I mean, the biplanes are still cool. But if you enjoy racing, if you enjoy any type of motorsport, any type of thrill, any type of speed, there is no faster speed. There is no faster racing on Earth than air racing. That's just what it is. Okay? Bare minimum, these guys are doing 300, 350. A lot of the guys in the Reno air race are pushing 375, 400, 425, 450. These guys are flying. I forgot exactly what motors they're using. I know a lot of them are using the old Merlins from that were built in the 30s and 40s that were on the fighter aircraft from World War II and things like that, and even some of the older jet fighters or jet aircraft that the Nazis were slowly pushing into production and using very sparsely towards the end of the war in 44 and 45. But look, I just love aviation. I love history. And the fact that there's not a lot of places in the world that you're going to be able to find fighter aircraft from the 40s and 30s and even older than that flying around. A lot of them are in museums. A lot of them are not airworthy. A lot of them are in warehouses that will never see the light of day. A lot of them are in storage containers that will just never be built again. It is very difficult to find somebody willing to put the money, put the time, put the energy, the effort into rebuilding, old aircraft and things like that. And so the fact that we're losing Reno is huge in my opinion. I'm very disappointed in that. When we look at what I think is really the final nail in the coffin for Reno was the Wings Over Texas crash last year in November, because I believe the Reno news came out in January or February regarding this year being the last year. If you aren't familiar with that, that was the P-63 mid-air collision with the B-17 Flying Fortress right outside of, I think it's in Fort Worth or Dallas. I totally forgot. I remembered I could have gone over there and seen where it happened last week. I just didn't do that. But we had a situation where we lost one of the last surviving, airworthy B-17s and everybody involved. Yes, the crews as well. We lost them, and that was due to a situation to where there was a lot of miscommunication and just unfortunate directing from the air boss and everybody in control there that led to that fatal incident. Very fortunate that didn't end up happening over the interstate or over the any of the surrounding areas, and it landed on the airport property. But we had that last year. We had Shockwave, the jet truck crash, flip, and kill the driver last year at another air show. He was a famous Monster Jam driver and stuntman who raced a jet truck against planes. He ends up blowing a tire, which was you can't control that type of stuff. Unfortunately, he flips, he dies. Last year we had a fatality in the jet race. I think it was just a jet crash at Reno. Not entirely sure, and this is just me recalling stuff off memory. He's going down the back straight. I'm not entirely sure if it was a mechanical failure or if he blacked out, but he goes into a roll, heading towards the ground. He rolls to the right to correct that, goes up, gains altitude, and then quickly, goes back down in a downward trajectory and ends up crashing on that back straightaway. We had another fatality in 2014 at Reno. We've had several instances of recently, not recently, like one, in the past 4 years, to where I believe we had a crash landing recently, and so on and so forth. Anyway, the reason I'm saying all that type of stuff is, how many people are on Earth? 7, 8, 9 billion people, whatever the case may be. You should pretty much let people do what they want, okay? If they want to do risky things, I want to race cars. That's where I'm at. I want to do that. But if people want to fly planes, if people want to race planes, if people want to be climbing Everest, we'll talk about that in a bit. I fully believe we should let them do that. We should find facilities to do that. So I understand, hey, maybe we don't want it in Reno, but let's find a place to get this going. Let's not have this die. When we look at just stock car racing in general, we've lost Texas World Speedway. We've lost Auto Club Speedway. These are tracks from a bygone era. Nobody will ever greenlight a development project to build racetracks that big ever again. It just won't ever happen. You will never, ever come up to a city government, be like, hey, I want to construct a 2-mile racetrack. You will never get the funding for it. You will never get the permits for it. You will never, ever get that done. That's why I get so disappointed when we lose the big racetracks. Truly unfortunate. I've lost local racetracks and stuff. I've lost local short tracks. It sucks. But it's a real shame when we lose the big kahunas. When we lose the big tracks, the fact that Michigan's the only relic from that age is disappointing. Okay, it's cool that we brought back North Wilkesboro. It's cool that we're trying to bring back Rockingham, which I think Rockingham's going to be pretty awesome. That's a pretty awesome track, a lot of characteristics. I'd like to see cars back on there. But the fact that we've lost two of the two bigger racetracks here in the U.S., it's unfortunate. We lost Nazareth, a really interesting track. Just unfortunate, we lost it. So the fact that we're losing Reno, a place that you can find nearly all the privately owned aircraft that are just cool, old P-39s, old BF-109s, old P-51 Mustangs, drastically different aircraft that you just don't see anymore. Flying, being pushed to their limits. Like that's cool. That's awesome for me. I like seeing that. So it's a shame. I hope I could possibly go in September. I doubt it'll happen. I doubt I'll be able to get the funding or free time to go all the way to Reno, because that would be very expensive. I would love to go see the air racing the racing there one last time. I doubt I will. If you get the chance, if you're anywhere near Nevada in September, consider going to the Reno air races. I doubt you'll be disappointed. If you like loud motors, if you like the fastest motorsport, if you just like aviation in general, I think you should absolutely try and get there this last year. People want to talk about, the fatalities, leaning towards that. Like that's going to happen. I don't know what else to tell you guys. We're not seeing commercial aircraft crash, like at least here in the U.S. It happens in, across the country a lot. Not a lot, but more like just, a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, the derailment in India that killed, 238 people or whatever it was on that train derailment. Unfortunate. It happens, but that's on a government level. That's like way up there. These are privately owned planes. These are guys who are living their dreams, going as fast as, like, pushing their equipment as far as they want. Like, they want to go out there. And they're not being stupid either. I hate that. I was seeing a lot of arguments, especially regarding the Wings Over Texas crash. Yes, it was unfortunate that there was, a new air boss in charge of all that, and there was a lot of confusion that led to the death of those, 9 or 7 people in charge in that. And that'll get corrected. That'll be fixed. I doubt we'll see anything that leads to that type of confusion again. You learn, especially the aviation world, you learn from every single mistake that happens. You have to. But these people aren't just rinky-dink idiots going out there, which is why the Galloping Ghost incident was such an anomaly in 2011, and there's been so many changes just from that. I forgot his name. The guy who was piloting Galloping Ghost made, drastic modifications to his P-51 Mustang to make it go faster. He just never tested that stuff, and he had a trim tab, come off mid-flight that threw it into a vertical climb and then rotated around and came back down in front of the crowd, and killed, quite a few people there. But that's so small. The chance of people actually doing that, is slim to none. Of people actually making modifications, not testing them, just going out there, not alerting people that he did any of that stuff. Anyway, I just like air racing, man. I like people going out there, doing what they want. And look, you're gonna have mechanical failures. You're gonna have people pushing their bodies to the extreme. You're gonna have people blacked out. You're gonna have fatalities here and there. But everybody there understands the risk. Same thing with skydiving. Same thing with deep sea diving. Scuba diving. Whatever. Stuff can happen all the time. I don't know if I need to remind everyone that we're just like pudges of meat in a skin bag, in a skin sack. Like, bro, this world is meant to kill us. Like any day of the week, I can get killed on the highway, by some idiot out there, So if I'm gonna go race planes, like let them go race planes. Everybody knows the risk. Everybody understands, and everybody's smart. Have you ever met a pilot? Do you know pilots? Like, they're not a bunch of idiots. The amount of time, the amount of knowledge that you need, the amount of just everything, like, it's all done in a safe way, Like passing, Jesus Christ. Like, it's not like just random, like, dive bomb and shit. The faster planes are going to get by because you have to pass on the outside. You have to keep everybody in charge, or you have to keep everybody within view of whatever the case may be. I'm disappointed that the Reno air races are disappearing after this year. Same vein, when we look at Mount Everest, you look at K2, you look at any of the 8,000 ears, the mountains that are over 8,000, or the peaks that are over 8,000 feet. Look, people want to live their life. Some people are thrill seekers. Some people want to do things that do things. People want to. I recorded this earlier, and I kind of went on a rant about this. Sorry. People want to climb mountains. People want to climb stuff. Now, I understand that you might, be disappointed that Everest is more of a commercialized adventure now for people who have money, and I understand that. I can see that. but it's still like climbing Everest is still cool. I would love to go to Everest. I just personally, for me, I don't think I have the skill to climb it, but I would love to go to base camp one year and just document everything there. That would be so awesome to be there, to just see it, you know? I think that stuff's cool. I think it's awesome. People want to go to Mount Everest, and you can, you know, whatever your views on the politics of regarding the Sherpas and people going through Nepal and just all the politics around there, I still think Mount Everest is cool. I still think it's awesome. When you look at this year at Mount Everest, this was one of the highest fatality years in a very, very long time. I believe last time I looked it was 14, 16. I nearly always keep up with it in the month of May, and whatever happens there. I think there's still 4 or 5 people missing from the ascents this year. But look, that's what people want to do. People understand. Like, I hate when people act like it's just a bunch of dumb idiots going out there. Whether it's air racing, air shows, yes, the shit's gonna happen. You know, we're gonna have disasters at times, but you learn from that. You move forward. Everybody understands the risk. Everybody understands what they're doing. You know, if you go to Everest, if you're climbing K2, you understand that, hell, and even K2 is more deadly than Everest, despite the fact that Everest has the big name. Like, if I see that anybody climbs K2, I'm like, damn, dude, that's awesome. What a legend. You know, I think K2's already taken at least 4 people this year, 3 or 4 people this year. Let people do what they want to do. Let people climb. Let people chase thrills and stuff like that. That's kind of that's the first thing that's been on my mind a lot. It's just Reno and Everest. And if you've never looked into either of those two events, the Reno air races, check out the footage online. It's incredible. Seeing older fighter plane, like, that is so cool, man. I was just in New Orleans 2.5 weeks ago, going through their World War II museum, and when we got to the aviation part of that, you know, I mean, they had an old Sherman tank on there, which is awesome. I love stuff from there. But they had a ton of planes. You know, I finally got to see a P-51 Mustang for the first time in my life. That's my favorite plane ever. I love how they look. Love everything about the history of that. But they had a Flying Fortress there, and you know, when I saw that, and I remembered Texas Raiders, you know, crashing, just it's unfortunate. We're losing history like that, and I'd like to see that stuff outside of museums, all the ones that are left, and keep them flying. Anyway, so we have that. Let me talk about the this NASCAR crash test. I don't know if you guys have seen this stuff already, but if you remember this crash from Talladega, yet again, I didn't make a video on this stuff just because there was so much stuff coming out at that time. When if I would make a video, the stuff would be like kind of old news by the time the video came out. There's just an influx of things going on. Anyway, when you look at this crash here and you look at the inside of this car, you see that these bars didn't fail. The welds failed. That's what failed in this car. Now, you can blame Dallara. You can blame a lot of instances here. I'm blaming NASCAR and Dallara for this, mainly due to the fact that it's 2 things. Is one, Dallara is having to mass produce these chassis, okay? This isn't like it is in the old days and when the teams built the chassis in their shop, in their facility, because when you do that, you care about, I think, as I've been a part of it, you care about it, making sure it doesn't mess up, making sure everything's going to be strong because you know the guy who's going to be in the car. You actually care. When you take, you do your due diligence and make sure everything's okay. When you're Dallara having to mass produce cars, already in a backlog, already having, you know, part shortages and shortages and you know, the price of metal and everything just going exponentially higher and higher, you're just concerned about pumping this stuff out to the teams as fast as you can. I think that's where this is. Now, NASCAR, when this happened, they went through, and I understand that there's more security stuff on the left side of the car. I know what they look like, but I look at this and I still say I think that's a fatality. If it hits Larson left side, driver's side, I think it's a fatality. Now, NASCAR came out and said that the difference between Preece and Larson here was around 59 miles per hour. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, I don't know if you guys have seen this video here. Ironically, this comes out 3 to 4 hours later following the news that Gragson is out due to a concussion. But they're talking about how they're creating more crunch room and things of that nature and making this be more absorbent so that the drivers aren't taking as big of an impact and things of that nature. But dude, I'm skeptical because NASCAR has already come out and said that this car is safe 4 different times, and I've called bullshit on all that type of stuff. And I don't feel right about this stuff. You know, they put this plate in here saying that that's the real thing. As I said, what failed in Larson's crash were welds. You know, the weld here failed. We saw some welding here fail. You know, that's structural integrity of the actual welds and of the cocoon around the driver on both sides failing. This fucking plate here, I mean, you can add that, but I'm skeptical. That's just where I'm at. But I've been skeptical of this car ever since it came through. Like, look, forget having the old COT back in the day. We get the CTE car now. Okay? So this is that. What concerns me, red flags, just where I'm at. This is the old front end. This is the new front end. This is a test at 35 miles an hour. Now, I don't know about you, but we don't see a lot of 35 mile per hour differences between these cars and whatever they're hitting. It's usually a lot more, whether it be on the side, whatever the case may be. But we've seen a lot of head-on collisions as of late that are pretty rough. If you look on the left side, this is the old car. And, I mean, okay, rough, you know, not fun, not great. This new car concerns me. Let me take my thing off. I had to turn my mic back on. Okay, so I'm coming through. This is the new car with all the crunch room. I want you to look at this crash, and what is the one thing you notice? Because I'll tell you what I noticed the first time. I'll show you the first thing that I saw. Sorry, I hit the one thing. I'll show you the first thing that I noticed when I came through here. As a guy who has looked at crashes in a sense of when to take care and everything like that, what is the one thing you noticed from this crash that didn't happen in this one that would concern me? If you're concerned about protecting the driver, watch with this. So this is covering the drive shaft, the drive line, the transmission, everything that this engine is connected to, you know, and basically kind of the firewall, looking at your right side or where your right leg would be. Watch the buckling here of this transmission and shit wanting to fly into the cockpit, into where the driver is, okay? Look at the buckling here as this slowly starts to push through and want to fly. Like, what? Whoa, I can't believe they okayed that to go on the internet in a video. That's concerning. Come on. Like, is that, am I the only one here that's worried about that? That just me. I don't know. Anyway, I saw that. Thought it was fishy that it came out. I just, you know, NASCAR is trying to backtrack, and then we got a ton of this shit here of all the people in the comment sections being like, they're doing a good job. You guys are making incredible breakthroughs and shit. And I was like, we are in the year of our Lord 2023. Okay? We either are too nonchalant with danger as a whole, which is where I try to be different. Like, we should always be chasing safety. That's just where we're at. I think we're going backwards there. And we shouldn't even be having these discussions. These were discussions we were having in the 90s. Not even NASCAR, just cars in general. Why are we having the same discussions 30 years later? What is going on here? Secondly, when we look at two incidents here, we'll talk about the Noah Gragson. We'll talk about all the tires blown out, but Gragson specifically because he had a concussion. But when we looked and found out that story about the gentleman in the stands that got hit by a piece of brake rotor from Gregson's car, excuse me. One, I couldn't believe it. So backtrack real fast. I was at DreamHack clearly this last weekend. They had their motorcycle, not the motorcycle. They had their BMX riders from Monster Energy, you know, doing a little show and stuff. And I was plop right by where they come if they're going to land. So mainly two things. One, if they fuck up and crash, they're going to crash into me and I'm going to get some free shit. Okay? That's just how it is. Two, I'm there to watch somebody crash. That's where I'm at, okay? Everybody knows where I fall on that. I want to watch some dude professionals, because it rarely happens. It's much more rare that you see them crash and fail, and then they like. What do you remember from Evel Knievel? Do you remember any of his jumps? Do you remember any of his stuff, or do you just remember his crashes? Because I remember his crashes a hell of a lot more than I do his jumps. Okay, and Travis Pastrana made him look like a real pussy when Travis, this is like 6 years ago, did the 3 jumps back to back, re-jumped Caesar's Palace and then did the bus and everything. Didn't even break a sweat. Meanwhile, Knievel's over here breaking legs left and right. Anyway, I digress. I'm there waiting for a mistake, something to happen. Somebody to absolutely crash, lose teeth against the concrete ground. Like, that's what I'm there for, okay? Of course, I guess I'm just the asshole for that. Anyway, so I'm always looking for something like that to happen. And I'm always aware that something like that can happen. The guy who got hit with that piece of brake rotor in his chest, who has that mark in there, dude, what are you doing? Why are you being so nonchalant? Oh, that happens. This happens here. Are you aware that if that piece of brake rotor is going like 10 miles per hour faster towards you, you got a collapsed lung? You're bleeding out in the stands. You might not even make it to an ambulance. Like, we just keep getting closer and closer and closer to killing fans, killing drivers. A lot of people shit on me because I've been saying that for years. But, like, do you remember when we went from, like, 2017 to 2000, probably even before the COT, but right after, from Earnhardt to about 2012, safety was top of the concern. Anytime we had, like, Kyle Larson in the catch fence, anytime we had, we had catch vent crashes, things like that at Daytona or whatever, safety was number one. It was always on the docket of what can we do to make this better? What can we do to not have this happen? Blah, blah. I feel like that's been thrown away, and everything's like, that happens, it's okay, and, sorry about the brake rotor hitting you, but if you're Gateway, if you're NASCAR and you see that guy posting online that he got hit by a piece of brake rotor and he didn't, like, that, you're so close there. Okay, so going back to the Indy 500, when I saw that tire fly over the fence, the first thing I thought of was this. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this soundbite before, and I'll show you the video. Nobody dies from this, by the way, but I'll show you the, I'll let you hear it first. This is what I thought of the first time.
We can't shut it down. Oh, we've just killed people. We have just killed a bunch of people.
That was my first thought. When I saw that tire fly over the fence, I was like, dude, it's going to clock. I don't know if you guys look back, maybe like 1980, 70, I don't remember. A spectator was killed by the spectators are killed all the time by IndyCar tires. Charlotte, Indianapolis, what was the other 1.5 mile auto club? No, Michigan. It was Michigan. It had to be Michigan. I'm pretty sure it was Michigan. There's a picture from the 70s, 80s, maybe a bit older, don't remember, of a guy getting clocked in the head by a tire at Indy in that exact same grandstand at the very top row, gets clocked in the head, dies. I thought that's what it was going on. So as soon as I went over, I'm like, dude, we just killed a fuckload of people in that stand. If that hits a group of people, that's at least killing 2 people, injuring several more. There's like, we're dead. We killed a ton of people. The fact that it hit that, it hit that car, and everybody was kind of very much like, "Oh man, that was close," but we didn't consider it very much went to, man, glad nobody got hurt, man, glad nothing happened, prayers, safety, and we just moved on, dude. I understand that we're using straps to keep the tires on and stuff, but the fact that that car impacted that way above the strap that keeps it on the tire and ripped it off like that, come on, that's huge. And the fact that everybody involved in that had a very good attitude. I don't know. I feel like we're being a little too fast and loose with how we're looking at this type of stuff. Anyway, I want to show you this in case you've never seen this instant before. Sorry, here. Yet again, nobody dies here. Just in case you haven't seen it, you can always look it up, and then this is what it is. Just sand drags inside a stadium.
We can't shut it down. Oh, we've just killed people. We have just killed a bunch of people.
But yeah, nobody dies from that. Maybe it's just because I watch a lot of fatalities. I watch a lot of incidents of people making mistakes, specifically in motorsports and stuff. Even if you go back and look at like a lot of the not innovations, a lot of the stuff made just of the last 40 years of like monster trucks and stuff. You know, there's that famous story. I forgot if it was an indoor stadium or something, but monster truck goes over a bunch of cars, lands wrong, steering brakes, whatever, heads towards heads towards, a spectator stand. So a guy pushes, either a little girl or a little boy out of the way and then gets crushed by the truck and stuff. The reason I'm bringing that up is just we don't see a lot of like care. I don't know. I feel like safety is just being forgotten. Same thing like with the whole suspension stuff in NASCAR right now going on. I know this week we had Austin Dillon, telling them to suspend Cindric and shit like that. I don't know how NASCAR fixes that can of worms. They already opened that up. But the only way that changes, the only way safety in racing changes, we're seeing the same thing with like Landon Huffman, that thing at Hickory that happened several weeks ago. We're seeing like road rage go up across the nation here in general, but we're seeing a lot of road rage on racetracks right now of people like self-spinning, or not self-spinning, people purposely like wrecking their competitors and things like that. A lot of the time it's like younger kids who have been like kind of spoon-fed and given stuff. This stuff doesn't change, and I don't see it changing until people start dying again. And the fact that we have made so many strives in safety in terms of Hans devices, Simpson devices, inside the cockpit stuff, but we're lacking stuff in terms of spectator safety. I think that's where it gets pushed. Whether it be, fatalities from drivers will either come depending on what the wreck does. But we're getting closer and closer to killing fans again, and it's getting closer and closer to looking at, towards the 60s, towards the 70s. We're going to start making mistakes again. People are going to start getting lazy again. It's the same thing of running a mundane task at like a table saw or a skill saw or something. You do something so many times, you stop paying attention. You stop getting reminded of the safety. You get bored. Your mind starts wandering, and then you accidentally cut yourself. You lose a finger or whatever. Same thing in the racing world. I feel like we're just seeing a kind of a relax in safety of precaution. Same thing with that's really what caused the Wings Over Texas disaster. A new air boss, kind of a relax, whatever. Like, we're going to very much kind of change whatever went over and debrief it and start, running things by all fast and loose and everything. I just feel like we're making mistakes there, and if we don't get that, we're going to start. I know I've been saying that for years, but seriously, I love Crash as much as next people. I doubt you'll find anybody else who is rooting for crashes and fucking fatalities as much as I am, and injuries and stuff. But it's coming, man. It really is. Last thing let's talk about is the changing and the turning point of DFS in general. Stokastic came out with their MLB simulations against looking at like plus EV lines and stuff like that. Now, granted, I've been on the road. I've only been listening to I really haven't even listened to a lot. I doubt Theory of Daily Sports have put out one yet, or even Lowell's or any other DFS podcasts out there, which also, if you don't listen to, I think you should. But this is just me, and yet again, I'm an idiot, just speaking out loud. Never went to school, not an engineer, certainly don't know AI and stuff like that. But that I believe we're truly at a turning point in DFS. We're clearly past the boom, just like the poker boom in the early 2000s. We're past the big DFS boom. We're at a point where sports betting and everything is getting more legalized, and more states are picking up on it. And states I just don't understand what the fuck you're doing. You can tax the shit out of that for your state. What are you doing? Same thing like medical marijuana. I don't smoke, or medicinal marijuana. I don't smoke. But that should be legalized. A lot of drugs should be legalized. Just let everybody fucking do whatever they want. If they want to fucking overdose, do whatever they want to do. Just tax the shit out of it. Put a 20% tax. People are going to pay it. You're going to make a shitload of money. Same thing with sports betting. I don't understand why certain states don't have it legalized. Whatever. The fact that the public has access to that now, and I say the public, it's $180 a month, which honestly, that's a fair price point for what that can offer. I know I'm talking about this maybe about 6 days after, that was announced. But I think that is going to be huge for DFS, and it's just for MLB right now, but I know it's going to exist on some site publicly for the NFL this season, for this fall, especially once they find and get the kinks worked out after this first month between that AI learning, AI optimization for DFS and sports betting. We are entering a turning point for this. For me, I'm just terrible at props. I'm terrible at actual sports betting, things like that. I enjoy DFS. I enjoy the math problem. And first off, if you weren't using optimizers, you're already behind. If you are not leaning into looking into this type of stuff, I think you're going to fall behind. Whoever gets this stuff, whoever is able to use it to their advantage the first is going to make a fucking killing. I mean, it's going to be a fucking pissing match between people that have money that can afford to R&D this type of stuff on their end compared to what they have running their own Excel files or whatever they're doing on their own computers and stuff like that. There's going to be a massive influx, I believe, in MLB players and MLB experiments, and even in different sports experiments, specifically in NFL. I think this year we're going to have another big influx of NFL DFS players in the month of September, but we're going to have a huge, the big expense, like millionaire makers. Those 150 is going to be insane. The higher price point contests are going to be insane. Going to be way more difficult to win them now. That's just kind of my 2 cents. I do NASCAR. I think the only thing that saves NASCAR is the high variance. I think hockey's saved and can be saved by the high variance. I forgot the book I was reading. It was several months back. Kind of an outdated book, but it was written like 2006 or 5. But it still had relevant stuff now. But it was disclosing the difficulty in simulating games in terms of NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, things of that nature. I mean, baseball is their own fucking. It's its own thing. I just don't do that. But NHL, you have so many different variables of what the ice is doing, of how the puck can be a factor in and of itself, of how it rolls, how it flies, what it does, what the stick can do. There's so many different variables that you cannot be in control of on hockey, which you are in control of on like an NFL game. Like NFL, I can look at each player on both sides, look at their stats, and I say stats in terms of like deep in the weed knowledge, not just like, oh, what's his defense percentage on third down, 3rd and 8, how are they doing? I mean like, you can look at how each player stacks up against themselves, and that'll most of the time lean you towards the way of what should happen. Okay, and you can very easily simulate that, and you can very easily have an idea of what's going to happen. Hey, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the Dolphins' offense. We have a really good chance of what Tyreek Hill can do in a pass given on this coverage, on this down, and at this point in the game, blah blah blah. Okay, whereas hockey, there's so many variables alive during the entire play, it makes it very difficult to project and look at. I think hockey is going to be safe, at least for a while, from all these simulations that are coming out. I think NASCAR will be okay for a while because we have, certainly the fucking truck at Xfinity. Those guys are smoking meth anyway. They make that shit wild each weekend anyway. But I think NASCAR is going to be safe for a while. I think NFL is the next big kahuna. If Stokastic and other sites can pick up, learn what they need to do with this stuff that they just put out for MLB, NFL is going to be the next one hit hard this year. We're going to have a lot of the sides competing for each other. I think this is going to raise a rising tide raises all boats, or whatever the fucking saying is. I like SaberSim. I like what SaberSim does, but this is going to make SaberSim better. This is going to make Fantasy Labs better. This is going to make Fantasy Cruncher better. This is going to make all the other sites that run simulations, projections. They're all gonna get better. And AI really isn't even introduced into this stuff yet. Okay, I know there's some players out there that are using AI very much in early stages to look at stuff. But when you look at like sportsman in general, you look at the bat for MLB being really, really accurate. When you look at how Prize Picks has like last season, kind of wild in terms of MLB props, in terms of other props and stuff like that. They're very closer to what the line should be now. Some of them wait later in the day to put their stuff up, so you don't get that juice. You don't get the edge of betting early. I was talking to Tony Lavender in Dallas the other week, this past weekend. We talked about a lot of stuff, but I was joking to him about, hey, what is it like being like the friend that everybody like message you on fucking Sunday, week 3 NFL. It's like 8 a.m. Sunday. Hey, I got $100. Who should I bet this week? What should I do? I'm like, well, you got nothing on there. There's no advantage on any of the books now. You got to bet on like a fucking Tuesday. You got to bet the Tuesday before the Sunday. That's the only time you have an advantage. Once both the sites and the players start really using AI, really using things that are like scrapers that are really pulling stuff from drastically different sites instantly, you're gonna see this stuff get harder and harder. We saw some memes and stuff, but when you look at like the Snapchat AI memes of like when they were asking that what props should they take, and then that Snapchat shut it down, like that AI was pulling from a lot of different places, okay, and it was giving people good picks that cashed. When you look at Chat GPT, I always fumble it. That's getting better and better. Now it's pulling from a lot of things online, but it's knowing what to pull. It's only going to improve. AI is only going to improve once we start moving forward. It is going to change the face of DFS, of sports betting, of gambling in general. And it's going to very much leave towards in-person games. I think that'll take the least amount of hit. Now, granted, you already see the difference of people who have grown up on online poker being able to play a ton of tables, whether it's for money on offshore sites or like just even doing like WPT and stuff, who have seen thousands and thousands and thousands of hands before they even get to a real life table. Like real life in-person poker, I don't think that's going to change drastically. But like Omaha, but DFS, online, or mobile sports betting and stuff like that, I think we are at such a big turning point. People aren't paying attention the way they should. I cannot wait to hear more about this stuff. I can't wait to hear more opinions on this stuff from people who are much smarter than I am. And I can't wait to just see what people think is going to happen and see what people think they can do and what they can't do, and so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of interesting things in the future that we are right at the turning point. So my takeaway is where I'm at here. If you're not familiar with optimizers, you need to get familiar with optimizers. If you're not listening to or consuming as much DFS content, and I'm not talking about picks videos, I'm talking about game theory, analytic ways of approaching these games, these sites. If you're not paying attention to that type of stuff, you're already behind the 8 ball. I would encourage everybody, if you have free time, if you have anything, like look into this stuff on a deeper level, because I think that's the only way to get an advantage right now, because you're going to have more of the public having access to fantastic tools. We're going to probably see cash even get more difficult. I don't know why people still play cash lineups. I don't know why people still play cash games, but that is going to be pushed harder and harder, more difficult. GPPs, more expensive GPPs are going to be even more and more difficult. This NFL season is going to be fucking wild. This is going to be, I think we are in the hardest era of DFS ever. It is only going to get harder. And as I said, this is a turning point in DFS. These are mainly things I've just been thinking about as I've been driving a lot these last couple weeks. Maybe you found this interesting, maybe you didn't, but either way, thank you for being here, and I will see you guys in the next videos. So see you guys then.